Whispers of yesterday. The salt-laden breeze carried memories across Mariposa Bay as Elena Castillo sat on the weathered pier, legs dangling over crystal waters. At 30, she still found herself drawn to this spot where she and Nikolai had carved their initials into the wooden railing 12 years ago. Her fingers traced the faded E+N as the setting sun painted the horizon in watercolor hues. "Still chasing ghosts, Elena?" Daniela, her older sister, approached with a thermos of coffee. "Thomas from the bookstore asked about you again." Elena accepted the warm cup with a polite smile. "I'm not interested, Danny." "It's been 7 years," Daniela sighed, settling beside her. "Nikolai left for Europe and hasn't sent more than 3 postcards. Life moves on." But Elena knew what others didn't. The promise whispered between them the night before his family's abrupt departure to Vienna. A promise sealed with trembling voices and tear-stained cheeks. "Wait for me," he had pleaded. "I'll come back when I can offer you more than dreams." The memory faded as gulls cried overhead. Elena had built a respectable life in Mariposa Bay, teaching literature at the local high school, volunteering at the community theater, living in the small cottage left by her grandmother. Yet her heart remained tethered to a boy who had disappeared across an ocean. That evening, as autumn winds rattled her windows, Elena sorted through her mail. Bills, advertisements, a newsletter, and a postcard that made her breath catch. The Barcelona skyline gleamed on glossy paper, but it was the handwriting that sent her pulse racing. "I'm building something wonderful. Still remember our promise?" "And the 4th postcard in 7 years." Elena pressed it to her chest, ignoring the rational voice that sounded suspiciously like Daniela. 4 postcards in 7 years was hardly a relationship. Yet she couldn't explain why her faith never wavered. At the faculty meeting the following morning, Principal Rojas announced an exciting development. "We've secured funding for our new arts center. The foundation is headed by a former resident who's made quite a name for himself in European architectural circles." Elena half listened while grading papers until a name snapped her attention back. "Nikolai Petrov will be visiting next month to finalize the designs personally." The red pen slipped from Elena's fingers, leaving a crimson streak across a student's essay. Around her, colleagues murmured about the generous donation, but all she could hear was the thundering of her heart. That night, Elena stood before her mirror, wondering if Nikolai would recognize the woman she had become. The shy girl with wild dreams had grown into someone steady and self-possessed. Would he be disappointed that she never left Mariposa Bay? That she had chosen teaching over the writing career they had once planned together? As rain pattered against her windows, Elena pulled out a wooden box from beneath her bed. Inside lay every memento of their time together. Ticket stubs, dried flowers, 3 postcards from distant cities, and a simple shell necklace he had given her on her 18th birthday. "When you hear the ocean in this shell," he had told her, "know that I'm thinking of you too." Elena closed her eyes, held the shell to her ear, and allowed herself, just for tonight, to believe that sometimes patience was rewarded and promises kept. The architect of fortune, Nikolai Petrov, stood at the window of his Vienna office watching snowflakes dance against the twilight sky. The architectural firm's logo, his logo, gleamed on the building across the street, a testament to 7 years of relentless work. At 32, he had become the wunderkind of European sustainable architecture, his designs gracing skylines from Barcelona to Berlin. "The Barcelona Foundation just confirmed the donation for the Mariposa Bay project," said Luisa, his assistant, placing a folder on his desk. "The board is impressed with your personal interest in such a small community project." Nikolai nodded, not trusting himself to explain that this small coastal town held his heart hostage. How could he articulate that every building he designed, every award he'd won, every euro he'd earned was merely a stepping stone back to Elena? The path hadn't been easy. When his family relocated after his father's business collapse, Nikolai arrived in Vienna with nothing but determination. He worked construction sites by day, studied architecture by night, and sent home every spare cent to help his parents rebuild their lives. There were nights he slept on park benches. Mornings he washed in public restrooms, all while maintaining a scholarship that demanded excellence. His breakthrough came during his final year of university. An innovative design for affordable hurricane-resistant housing won international recognition. Job offers followed, but Nikolai chose to start from the bottom at Hoffman & Schuster. Europe's premier sustainable architecture firm. "You're talented but untested," Werner Hoffmann had told him bluntly. Prove yourself, and prove himself he did. Working 18-hour days, Nikolai transformed theoretical concepts into practical designs that captured attention for their beauty and functionality. He lived on coffee and determination, sending just enough money home to support his parents while saving every other cent toward his future. A future with Elena, if she'd waited. 3 times in 7 years, his resolve nearly broke. 3 times he penned postcards with trembling hands, each one a lifeline to the woman who haunted his dreams. He couldn't offer more. Not promises he couldn't keep, not a timeline for his return, not the daily conversations she deserved. Not until he had built something worthy of the years she might be waiting. When Werner Hoffmann retired, he shocked the architectural community by naming Nikolai as his successor. At 30, Nikolai became the youngest partner in the firm's history, subsequently renaming it Petrov and Schuster. "You've exceeded every expectation," Julia Schuster told him at the celebration. "But you never join the team for drinks, never date, never seem to enjoy the success you've achieved. What drives you, Nikolai?" He'd simply smiled, fingering the weathered photo in his wallet. Elena, at 18, laughing by the pier, unaware of the camera capturing her joy. Now with success secured and his parents comfortably settled, Nikolai finally allowed himself to plan his return. The Mariposa Bay Arts Center provided the perfect opportunity, a gift to the community that had shaped his childhood and to the woman who had shaped his heart. He reached for his desk drawer, pulling out a small velvet box. Inside nestled a ring, not ostentatious but thoughtfully designed, a band of white gold supporting a pearl surrounded by tiny diamonds like sea foam. He'd commissioned it years ago, adding stones as milestones were achieved, a physical manifestation of dreams built stone by stone. "The board wants you to consider the Singapore project," Louisa interrupted his thoughts. "It would mean delaying the Mariposa Bay visit." "Not an option," Nikolai said firmly, closing the ring box. "Some promises can't be postponed any longer." That evening, as he packed for his journey home, Nikolai paused at his drafting table. Spread before him were designs not for buildings but for a home. A cottage overlooking Mariposa Bay, with a studio for Elena's writing and spaces filled with light. He'd revised these personal blueprints countless times over 7 years, each version reflecting his growing skills and deepening understanding of what makes a house truly a home. Whether Elena would share this home remained the one question his careful planning couldn't answer. He had built a fortune, a reputation, a future, but would she be there to complete it? Reunions and new beginnings. The Mariposa Bay Community Center buzzed with excitement as residents gathered for the Arts Center presentation. Elena arrived early, heart fluttering beneath her simple blue dress, chosen after hours of indecision. She took a seat near the back, both craving and fearing the moment she would see Nikolai again. Mayor Jimenez welcomed everyone enthusiastically.
"Today marks a new chapter for our community.
Please join me in welcoming home one of Mariposa Bay's own, the renowned architect Nikolai Petrov." The room erupted in applause as Nikolai walked onto the small stage. Elena's breath caught. The lanky boy with disheveled hair had transformed into a man with confident posture and thoughtful eyes. His tailored suit couldn't hide the faint scar above his right eyebrow, a reminder of their teenage misadventure climbing coastal rocks. Some things change, some remain eternally the same. Nikolai began his presentation with practiced ease, but midway through explaining the sustainable features of the proposed art center, his gaze swept the audience and locked with Elena's. He faltered momentarily, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his composed expression, before he recovered and continued. Elena barely heard the remainder of the presentation, the blood rushing in her ears, drowning out technical specifications and construction timelines. When the audience rose for a standing ovation, she slipped quietly toward the exit, suddenly overwhelmed. "Elena," his voice, deeper now but unmistakably his, stopped her at the door. She turned slowly, finding him just steps away, looking at her with an intensity that made the crowded room disappear. "You're leaving without saying hello?" he asked softly. "I wasn't sure you'd want," she began, then stopped. 7 years is a long time, Nikolai. Not long enough to forget a promise." His eyes searched hers. "Would you walk with me? There's something I want to show you." The familiar path along the shoreline felt both unchanged and entirely new as they walked side by side, close but not touching, the awkwardness of strangers mixed with the comfort of old friends. "You've done well for yourself," Elena said finally. "Your buildings are remarkable." "They're just structures," Nikolai replied. "Means to an end." They reached the old pier, their pier as sunset painted the water gold. Elena leaned against the railing, facing him fully. "Why did you really come back, Nikolai? Your firm could have sent anyone to oversee this project." "I came back for you." The simple truth hung between them. Every building I designed, every risk I took, every sleepless night. It was all to become someone worthy of returning to you. "I never needed you to be successful," Elena said quietly. "I would have followed you to Vienna with nothing but the clothes on my back. I know that now," he admitted. "But I needed to prove something to myself, that I could build security, stability, a future worth sharing." He paused. "Did I wait too long? Is there someone else?" Elena shook her head, tears threatening. "There's only ever been you." "But Nikolai, we're not the same people anymore. You live in a world of international acclaim and sophisticated cities. I teach literature to teenagers and direct community theater productions. Our lives don't fit together. That's where you're wrong." Nikolai reached into his pocket, retrieving not the ring but folded blueprints. "May I show you something I've been designing for 7 years?" Unfolding the papers, he revealed plans for a home overlooking Mariposa Bay. A writer's studio with walls of windows facing the ocean, connected to an architect's workspace. Gardens and reading nooks, spaces for solitude and togetherness, room for growth and possibility. "I've accepted a position with a San Francisco firm, opening their sustainable development division," he explained. "I'll be just 2 hours away. And this," he tapped the blueprints, "could be built on the hillside property that came up for sale last month." "You've planned everything," Elena whispered, tracing the drawings with trembling fingers. "Everything except your answer." Nikolai finally took her hand. "I understand if you need time, if you want to get to know who I've become. But I need you to know that while I was building a career, I was really building a path back to you." The setting sun caught the tears on Elena's cheeks as she looked from the blueprints to the man before her. No longer a memory or a distant promise, but present and real. "Some things change," she said softly, echoing her earlier thoughts, "and some remain eternally the same." As stars began appearing over Mariposa Bay, Elena and Nikolai sat at the edge of the pier, shoulders touching, making plans and sharing stories. Two people finding their way back to each other, stronger for the journey that had kept them apart. Their initials, carved years ago in weathered wood, remained beneath their hands. A testament that patience, faith, and promises kept could indeed build bridges across time and distance. The fortune Nikolai had built paled in comparison to the wealth they found in that moment of reconnection, proof that sometimes waiting silently while building dreams separately creates a foundation strong enough to support a lifetime together. Foundations of trust. 6 months after their reunion, Elena and Nikolai stood on the hillside overlooking Mariposa Bay, hard hats in place as construction crews broke ground on their home. The blueprint had evolved with their renewed relationship, slower, more deliberate than their teenage passion, but deeper for the patience it required. "Miss Castillo," called Mateo, one of Elena's former students now working as an apprentice on the project. "We found something interesting while excavating." They followed him to a small pit where workers had unearthed an ancient-looking bottle. Inside was a weathered note, barely legible. "Whoever builds here, may your foundation be as strong as your love. Captain J. Morales, 1897. What are the odds?" Elena laughed, leaning into Nikolai's embrace. "Some places are meant for love stories," he replied, kissing her temple. "Ours is just the latest chapter." Their relationship faced practical challenges. His frequent trips to San Francisco, her commitment to the school year, merging two independent lives into one shared vision. Yet each challenge they navigated strengthened their confidence in choosing each other. One evening, as they shared dinner on the construction site, watching sunset paint their future home in golden light, Nikolai finally presented the pearl ring he'd carried for years. "Not because we need to rush," he clarified as Elena's eyes widened, "but because some promises deserve formal recognition." Under the same stars that had witnessed their separation years before, Elena slipped the ring onto her finger. Not an ending, but another beautiful beginning. The dance of seasons. 2 years later, their home stood completed. A harmonious blend of sustainable architecture and warm, lived-in spaces that reflected both their professional talents and personal journey. The writer's studio had already witnessed the birth of Elena's first novel, while Nikolai's workspace had spawned designs that were changing the face of coastal community development. On a perfect autumn evening, they hosted a housewarming celebration that doubled as their wedding reception. Friends and family gathered in the gardens, fairy lights twinkling in the olive trees as the couple shared their first dance. "Worth waiting for?" Nikolai whispered as they swayed beneath the stars. Elena's answer was a kiss that spoke volumes about patience rewarded and faith justified. Around them, Daniela dabbed tears while Principal Rojas, now retired, raised a glass in salute. Later that night, when guests had departed and they stood alone on their terrace overlooking the bay where their story began, Elena presented Nikolai with her own surprise, a leather-bound journal containing every thought, hope, and dream she'd recorded during their 7 years apart. "I was never just waiting," she told him, placing the journal in his hands. "I was growing toward you even across an ocean." As moonlight silvered the waves below, they embraced in the home they had built, not just with wood and stone, but with perseverance, growth, and love that had matured like fine wine, only sweeter for the time it took to perfect.